is recognized as the largest and most successful gang intervention and reentry program in the entire world. The intention of the conference that we attended was not in order to franchise or recreate Homeboy in other cities, but it was an opportunity for people and organizations that do similar work to learn about what Homeboy does and to apply what is useful in their own context. And Debbie graciously accepted my suggestion that she take it from here.
So our t-shirts were a gift that all the participants at the networking gathering received. And on the back is a quote by Father Gregory Boyle that says, "Ventilate the world with tenderness." And so thanks to Anna for sharing the background of Homeboy. I was trying to remember who introduced me to the book Tattoos on the Heart, and I can't even remember, and it feels like such a part of me now. I don't remember the beginning. I cannot do a training without quoting Father Gregory Boyle. And I've been aware of this networking gathering for a few years, and I had wanted to go other years, it just didn't work out, but this year it kind of came together. So when I wanted to approach my supervisor about going, he said to me, "Well, you better come up with a better reason than you want to go worship at the altar of Father Gregory Boyle." And so I thought about it for a couple of days, and I'm like, sent him an email, I'm like, I do want to go worship at the altar of Father Gregory Boyle. Because after reading his books, you just know that there is love and compassion and that is so needed in the work that we do. I wanted to go soak some of that up. So that's what we got to do. So as Joanna said, they don't want to start a Homeboy franchise in other cities, but they're like, come and take a good look at what we do, and then take what you can from that and apply it to your work. The essence of the books that he's written are about compassion and about kinship. And he actually quotes Mother Teresa. So like Father Gregory quoting Mother Teresa, that is like, wow, that's like Father Gregory quoting Mother Teresa. I couldn't think of a better powerhouse of love and compassion. But he says that she says the problem in the world is that we have forgotten that we belong to one another. And all of the work of Homeboy Industries is informed by kinship, that we belong to one another. And so what I've tried to do is take some of the things that we heard at that conference and sort of string them together. They're sort of, every little kind of quote has a backstory, but it took us 2 days to accumulate all of this, and we've got 30 minutes. So I'm going to try to string them together, I hope kind of like pearls on a thread, or if you like the analogy of quilting, like blocks in a quilt, that maybe, on their own they have beautiful merit, and together maybe you'll get a little bit of a picture of what they do and how they do it. So some of the nuts and bolts of Homeboy Industries. The program is 18 months long, and it's 18 months long for a reason. They believe that it takes 18 months to form attachment, and they want people to attach to them. In one of the sessions I was in, they described healthy attachment as responding to a child's need in a positive way, and that the result is a child that trusts and is unafraid. Well, Homeboy is all about recreating the opportunity for attachment, because people make positive changes when they have positive relationships. One of the things about Homeboy Industries that you notice right away is that many of their staff are people who have come through the program. So when you come through the door, you're greeted by someone that has walked the life. So if I'm someone who's coming out of gang life or thinking about coming out of gang life, addiction, incarceration, when you come through the door, you're greeted by someone who's walked that journey. People are paid to be in the program. So as soon as they start as a trainee, and sort of that's kind of the language of their program, you start as a trainee, you're paid. And as you come in, asked to become part of the program, it starts with an assessment from which a service plan is drafted. And that service plan, everybody okay over there? Did you guys hear that? So part of that assessment is sort of where are the gaps in someone's development and perhaps education, what issues are they facing, do they need anger management, do they need parenting classes, and the service plan is drawn up, this comprehensive service plan, and then the building of a comprehensive support network. Teachers, mental health, employment, all being a part of that. They hire people that have been through the program to be mentors. They call them navigators. So every trainee has a navigator that's been through the program and can show this person how to move through the program. They also have a case manager, and that's kind of the core of their support team that then will go on to include these other teachers and mental health, and kind of just whatever it is that they need. Joanna mentioned all the different expressions of social enterprise. They have about 200 people working for them at any given time. Although I looked on their website and they have like thousands of people come through the door, but about 200 people at any given time are working in any of those social enterprises. But they would say that 95% of what a person does in the program at their work is learn about relationships. Relationship with themselves, relationship with each other, relationship with the community, relationship with the world. And they believe that a job grounds or tethers a person, gives them stability. They believe that for reintegration after incarceration, that part of that reintegration includes reintegrating into work. One of the examples they gave of something that someone who's reintegrating needs to be able to do is to hear the words, "Hey, get to work." I know just from my own experience, one of the women that I served, the paradigm that she kind of lived in was that an employer was there to control you. And I said, I don't think about my boss that way at all. I think of him as knowing what we need to get done and as guiding me in how that work, we should get it done. So just that paradigm of part of reintegration is framing, how do you view your employer? They also help people get employment outside of Homeboy Industries with partnering organizations and businesses. And they say that their job is, once someone gets a job, asking the question, how do we help someone keep a job? They would say to the trainee, look at you, like you did it, you got a job, like that's your success. And now our job is to help you keep that job, because that's only the first hurdle. Keeping a job is another job altogether. At Homeboy Industries, they never fire anyone. However, they do give out last checks, and they say, come back when you're ready. But they never write anybody off. There's always the opportunity to come back and to give it another shot. They talk lots about beat service providers, and that's how we at the Mustard Seed, in their language, how they would describe us in our work. And just some of the different, the paradigms that they work from. So here's some of the questions that they ask. Number one, how do I make it easier for someone to ask me for help? I love that, because I know in the work that I do, just about every woman I've ever worked with says it's really hard for me to ask for help. And that's often a barrier to being able to move forward. So what a great question for us to ask ourselves. How can I make it easier for someone to ask me for help? To ask the folks that we serve, what are your strengths? Another question, what will help you to get to know yourself? As we work with people who are coming out of addiction steals people from themselves. And they're often robbed of the opportunity to know who they are. And so part of that healing journey is getting to know yourself. I remember one of the first women that I served, when she was getting out, people were like, hey, are you going to go get your nails done? And she said, I don't know if I like getting my nails done. And that was part of her journey, was just kind of discovering that about herself. And I forget where she landed on it, but that's one of the ways we can help people in their healing journey. What will help you to get to know yourself? It's helping people always to be setting the next goal. One thing that was really important in their paradigm is recognizing that success is defined by the participant. That is that is their work. That is not our work. And in knowing that heightened stress affects decision making. I remember writing that down. It's one of those things you write down at a conference and go, yeah, I really know that, but it's not a bad thing to write down and be reminded of. And that we need to meet people where they're at and to help them to the next step, that there's never one answer that fits everyone. That leads me to a point that they spent a lot of time on, and that was talking about the gray area. When we think in terms of black and white, those are two options. It's either black or it's white, but if we are willing to enter the gray area, I thought, and this is a direct quote, that is where there is a plane of possibilities. Because in that gray area, you have lots and lots of choices. This is, there was a gentleman that's come through the program that now is one of their instructors and trainers, and he says, his name is Fabian Deborah, he said, it's never about you. It's about the homies and what they have to carry and how they view the world. If behavior is a symptom, where does it stem from? That's the gray area. Understanding what's at the root of their trauma without judgment or exclusion, get an invitation to meet them where they're at and build upon that. The question that grew out of that slide was, where is the healing thing for each individual that still has structure? We need to give people the opportunity to breathe easier before they can breathe better. I like that. In Hopeboy, they seem to have lots of latitude to help people in kind of whatever crisis they're meeting. And Joanna said several times as we processed what we heard and saw, she said it's just amazing the lengths that they will go to exact change and to give people that space to be able to focus on what they need to do. So for someone whose car's broken down, they said they'll lend them the money to get it fixed. Because when that's the crisis that's overshadowing everything else, that's what needs attention. There were lots of examples of just the way they met people where they were at and did everything within their power to give them the opportunity to breathe easier until they could breathe better. Because so much of their program is about employment, they talked about how important it was for them as mentors, not in the navigator sense, but the folks who hadn't sort of maybe walked through the program, but for everybody who worked together, that how they worked together as colleagues modeled for the people in the program how to work with other people. They said that it's important to communicate, not just to inform. And here was another kind of random quote. I don't even remember what the context was, but it's in my notes and it's in my heart, and it's that it's a horrible decision to push people out that need to be drawn closer. And I think that kind of circles back to that, if behavior is a symptom, what's at the stem? If we react to behaviors, we do tend to push people out. But if we can think about what's at the cause, then I think we'll be more inclined to draw people in. Another thing that was really a part of the ethos of Homeboy Industries is that everybody's there is working on themselves. Whether you're a trainee who just started, or whether you've worked there, in an upper level management for a number of years, that everybody there is willing to be working on themselves. To be willing to be in that uncomfortable place of working on yourself. I've thought of that lots of times in the years that I've been doing this work, that constantly working with people who are really doing the hard work to be a better version of themselves, and thinking, am I just a spectator to all this work, or am I entering in my own way to the work that I need to be doing on myself? I think that's part of kinship, is not just sitting back and saying, yeah, you folks, work on yourself, but recognizing that there's work that I need to be doing. And also that we all need to have a place to process what happens at work. Self-care in this work is so critical as we are in the front lines and so susceptible to vicarious trauma. So there is an element of trauma in hearing someone's story of their trauma, and that we need to be vigilant in caring for ourselves and processing what we hear, what we see, so that we can continue to do this for a long, long time. We are asking people in all of the ways that we interact with them to be vulnerable, and we need to model that as well, that that's part of kinship. The theme of the gathering was called Kinship, the Ripple Effect. And I think those are some of the ripples, that we become better people as we enter into kinship. So that's some of the nuts and bolts, which can't be really separated out from the heart and soul. But I did, just for the purposes of this, of having some structure to my little talk here, call that the nuts and bolts. And here's the heart and the soul, kind of what informs everything that they do. So that idea of kinship, that idea of compassion, but just in expressed a couple of other ways. One thing that Joanna and I noticed was conspicuously absent was that they never talked about success rates. They didn't ever say, this percentage of people who go through our program are never reincarcerated or remain employed. There are a boatload of success stories, but it's never been kind of reduced to data. And as I was thinking about that, I just wanted to read you a couple of paragraphs from Father Greg's book, Tattoos on the Heart, on a chapter that he called Success. Because I've read this a few years ago. We've used it in trainings for our volunteers. And but I thought I was actually seeing this principle lived out in the conference. So here's what Father Greg wrote. He says, are you, in the end, successful? I find myself heartened by Mother Teresa's take. We're not called to be successful, but faithful. This distinction is helpful for me as I barricade myself against the daily dread of setback. You need protection from the ebb and flow of 3 steps forward, 5 steps backward. You trip over disappointment and recalibrate every day, and it all becomes a muddle. God intends it to be, I think. For once you choose to hang out with folks who carry more burden than they can bear, all bets seem to be off. Salivating for success keeps you from being faithful, keeps you from truly seeing whoever's sitting in front of you. Embracing a strategy and approach you can believe in is sometimes the best you can do on any given day. If you surrender your need for results and outcomes, success becomes God's business. I find it hard enough just to be faithful. We really actually saw that demonstrated in the conference because, there were no statistics. We heard from lots of trainees and from lots of navigators in the different workshops. And here are just a few of the things that I heard directly from these folks. One trainee says, homeboy, I call them family. Someone else said, the rules that keep me alive where I grew up are not the rules I need in my new life. My whole life I knew how to survive. This place taught me how to live. And one homeboy, on giving us advice on how to help, said to love them until they can love themselves. And here's some words directly from Father Greg. Remind, dedicate, and cultivate. First of all, we remind ourselves that we belong to each other. We move from interconnectedness to kinship. Refusing mutuality deadens us. And then he says we dedicate ourselves again to fluency, and that's speaking the whole language of love and transformation. And we cultivate the aroma of tenderness. I just want to show you a couple of pictures, and so I'll ask, Travis is going to pull those up for us. So the first one's just the cover of the folder that we received when we registered. And just had some great pictures. So radical kinship, the ripple effect, and yeah, hope. It's all about hope. So the next slide is nothing stops a bullet like a job. So that was Father Greg's motto when he first saw the need to do something that would intervene in gang violence. And there's the t-shirt and then there's the hug. I don't know which says more. The next slide are just some of the folks that were speaking at one of the sessions that I attended. And I don't think we mentioned this yet, but tattoo removal is also part of the work that they do. And it came very early in the work when somebody came in wanting a job and he had like F the world tattooed across his forehead. And that was a barrier to employment. So they get doctors to volunteer their time and they have laser removal machines. And so they offer free tattoo removal for visible tattoos. So the doctor that gave us a tour of the room said they focus, the priority are tattoos that are face, neck, and hands. He said if somebody comes in with Hello Kitty tattooed on their back, he says, and they're embarrassed, well, that one you're going to have to live with. But the visible tattoos, the ones that put people in jeopardy, the ones that put people's lives at risk because of gang affiliations, the one that keep people from being employed, those are the ones that they do free tattoo removal. And but anyways, these are some of the folks that have come through the program and are now employed. The next slide is, this is a class schedule, and I just wanted to show it to you to show you some of the scope of what they offer. So I think that's kind of Monday through Friday, and every day is a column, and again, just pretty comprehensive as to people's needs, and people are paid to take the programming and heal and to grow. The next picture is Joanna's selfie with Father Greg. So it's really cool. Their office is there. All the walls are glass on the main floor. So he's in his office, actually there. But so the next picture, Joanna, photo cred to Joanna. That's me with Father Greg. And before we went to the conference, at our reintegration support group, we showed a TED Talk that Father Greg did a number of years ago because we wanted to kind of involve the women in our excitement at going. And part of that TED Talk, and I'd encourage you to watch it, it's like 18 minutes of pure gold, but he talks about their philosophy that no one is a throwaway. And so we showed this TED Talk, and one of the women in our program, we were just chatting about what it meant, and she said that was the thing that was the most impactful to me. She said, because I've been told I'm garbage. I've been told I'm useless. I've been told I'm a throwaway. And that just meant the world to her to hear that. And she said to me, if you meet Father Greg, can you tell him how wonderful it was for me to hear that and how much that touched me? So at the first night there was a reception and Father Greg's kind of milling around. And you started wondering, like, do I want to be the person that's like queuing up to meet Father Greg? And I did, but I didn't. But anyway, so we were actually in the building. I think we intercepted him on the way to the bathroom. But anyways, I seized the moment. And so I introduced myself, that I'm a reintegration chaplain in Canada, that we had shown the TED Talk, and told him what Deborah had wanted me to tell him on her behalf. And he just responded with such warmth, and Joanna caught it on film, and here I am with Father Greg, and I'm having the poster size made for my office. No, I did print the 4x6. It's on my bulletin board. And yeah, my husband's like, well, you look happy. So the next picture is Joanna and I just outside Homeboy. They have, it says kinship above it, and there we are, Siamese angel. And the next picture is just the whole gathering afterwards. Lots of people in their turquoise t-shirts. And I think there might be one more site. And yeah, just there's the name of the books to help you remember. There's the TED Talk link, which, TED Talk Father Greg, that'll get you there too. So really grateful we had the opportunity to go. You know, we came back with a few nuts and bolts kind of thing, but what we really wanted to do was absorb the ethos and hopefully carry that with us in our work. I hope we've been able to translate that a little bit, and maybe you'll want to go next year. It is in LA. I wish we could have brought the weather back, but we certainly brought warmth. So I'll close in prayer, and that will conclude. Gracious God, I thank you for the opportunity that we had to go and be at this conference, and I hope as we've shared this with our friends at Mustard Seed, that God, they've been able to sense some of what we were able to experience. Thank you for the work that's being done there. Thank you for the opportunity to learn from them. And Holy Spirit, I pray that you would just remind us of the things that we need to remember from this day, from the things that were said. God, as we look across the table or just at someone, God, may we remember not to think about success, but to truly see the people in front of us. God, may we remember that we belong to one another. God, may we come to you for the source of the love and compassion that is desperately needed to do this work. We commit our ways to you. We lean not on our own understanding, but we lean into you and ask that you would guide our work for the good of those we serve and for the honor of you, our King of Kings. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you. Are they gone?